here today, and thanks to my studio audience. We have in studio with me right now two gentlemen who are responsible for an incredible film that I saw Monday night, 83 Days.
Yeah.
Andrew Howell and Ray Lenard Brown.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here. Andrew, you are the director and cinematographer for 83 Days, and Ray, you're the co-executive producer, and you wrote this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not been able to sleep since seeing this film. Why don't you, gentlemen, tell us what it's about? Or actually, we have a clip, right? Can we go to the clip first?
Oh, sweet.
Did I hit you by surprise there, Tony? I did?
But it's okay. I got it.
My name's George Stinney Jr., but everybody called me Junior.
Why they got a kid like you in here?
When I was 14 years old, brought me here to protect me. They say I killed 2 white girls,
What did you do?
but I didn't. Nothing.
Are you trying to tell me that we've got the wrong guy? What's the truth?
Well, I don't know.
You can play the
Got
rest
two
of
little
that
girls
trailer
killed.
later.
Yeah.
And this town is...
But that was a shocking film to see.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was 1944.
Yes.
And this young man was accused of killing 2 younger white girls who were riding their bicycle
Yeah.
looking for the flowers nearby
Right.
in a field.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Why don't you guys take it away and tell us more about that story? I knew about it, but I was so moved by this, the way you did this film. Tell us. You wrote it. Go ahead. You start.
You start, Ray.
Well, basically, they were, the girls were out, like you said, looking for flowers, and they rode by George's house. They actually initially reached out to the little sister and asked the sister where the flowers were. And George stepped in and pointed them in the direction. When the girls came up dead, they were looking for someone to blame. And George acknowledged the fact that he saw the girls, and once he acknowledged the fact that he saw the girls, that was
it.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I know, my question to you is, why 83 days? Why call it 83 days?
So, so from the time that they took Junior in, they didn't actually arrest him for 2 or 3 days, but from the time that they arrested, like grabbed Junior and took him in, till the time that he was executed was 83 days. So that's arrested, tried, convicted, and put to death in 83 days. And so that's the name of our film.
And let's remember, Junior was 14 years of age.
Yes, it was.
14-year-old black youth.
Yeah.
The last to knowingly see these girls.
That's right.
Yes.
Why wasn't there a movement to at least interrogate other people? I think the big brother was also possibly.
Yeah. So Willie, they took both Junior and Willie in, and Willie said,
Willie's the big brother.
Willie's the big brother, yeah. And Willie said Junior showed them girls where to look for flowers, and the police officer thought that meant that he went with him.
Right.
But it just meant that he pointed,
them in
and
the
that was the confusion, and that's why he said, the officer ultimately says, your brother told us you did it.
Yeah.
So it was
And that was in the film.
yeah. And that was botched police work. That's what it originally started out as. And then from there, the pressure from the FBI, the pressure from the governor to basically close this down, because Alcaloo was a lumber town and they were afraid the mill was going to get closed down, and they wanted it done. They wanted it cleaned up, and this was an easy way to clean this mess up. So
Where were his parents? The parents moved out of town so quickly. Why?
They were forced out of town. On the same day that George was arrested, they literally forced the parents to leave town. And that was a big challenge for me because, George was left there by himself, but not because he wanted to be. The father had to decide whether or not he was going to stay and try to help his son or save his family, because they were coming. They actually burned their house down.
Yeah, they had a lynch mob burn their house down, and they were trying to get to Junior, and the sheriff took Junior, moved him from the county jail he's in to Columbia to protect him.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is South Carolina,
Yeah.
1945. Long after this sort of thing
Yeah.
any kind of thing should have even been happening with civil rights in the move. But wow.
Yeah.
But even his age, there were no laws then as to when to put somebody to death if, in fact, you believed he was guilty?
In the state of South Carolina, at the time, 14 years old was considered, they would consider 14-year-olds to be adults. So
Adults what? To be tried and convicted, or adults to have children, adults for anything?
I think that law was specific to, was set in place to be able to justify some of the things that they wanted to do, and specifically if a 14-year-old or was involved in something that was, they were accused or not, whether they were guilty or not.
So in 2014, Junior was vindicated, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened. So what a shame. This entire family's life was destroyed. This boy didn't get to live his life.
No.
And he also had a terrible execution, which we will get to in a moment.
That's right.
But he was vindicated so many years later. Who did that and why and how?
Well, it was when we started working on this project several years ago. We found evidence to prove that he wasn't guilty. So I started to kind of work to try to press on Governor Nikki Haley at the time to overturn the conviction. She would not.
The governor at the time
Of
South Carolina.
South Carolina, when we were working on producing the film back in 2011, 2012.
she would not.
She wouldn't overturn it. They started trying to block us from getting any information, and we found out some things that were really detrimental to the state, and they decided at that point in time that they were going to throw us a bone, and that bone was George Stinney. So they gave him a hearing on January the 21st. It was 3 days. And then they decided that they didn't want to rule on that hearing until December the 17th, almost a year later.
And that's the next movie.
Yeah, that's the next
That's the follow-up to
Yeah,
83.
So he was vindicated.
Yeah.
But if he didn't kill these girls, who did?
Yeah,
That's a great
that's a
question.
great question.
Who do you think killed these girls?
There is a there's a possibility of two individuals. There is the son of a prominent official that the majority of the community believes was responsible for it, and then there is speculation
Family member.
that it could have been someone else.
Yeah.
a friend,
A possible
Yeah.
family member. Yeah.
family member.
Yeah.
Family member of the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or someone, a high prominent person in the community, probably a business person, their
Well,
family member,
yeah.
and they just wanted to shut it down.
Well,
Wow.
and if you can remember, the lumber mill was the chief generator of this revenue for the state at the time.
Right.
So if that was unearthed or uncovered, then it would have caused for a mass exodus and it would have been a huge problem. So they were trying to cover stuff up.
So they put to death a 14-year-old boy. And how did that? He didn't even know. Remember when he was convicted?
Yeah.
He looked at his lawyer and he said, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
He didn't even know what happened.
Yeah.
He was very, very innocent. He was 14. He
And
was
also
well loved, well cared for, and did not have an inkling of what was going on.
Right.
Did he know these girls from school? Because they looked like they were about the same age.
Well, no, they didn't go to the same school.
But they knew of each other.
But they knew of each other.
Yeah.
But the rule was there was a railroad track, and you're not allowed to cross over the railroad track. The whites weren't allowed to come over there, and the blacks weren't allowed to go over there. But the young ladies came over looking for the flowers, and that's kind of how that situation developed. So to speak.
Wow. So this film is part of the Pan-African Film Festival.
Yes.
That's right.
And currently it's in Los Angeles. Then where does it go?
So we screen 2 more times here this Friday, and again on Monday next week, Friday at 1:10 and Monday at 5 p.m.
And what theater?
At the Cinemark in Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw. So
It's a
Cinemark
nice
15.
theater. I
It's
really
beautiful.
enjoyed going on
Yeah, it's
Monday.
wonderful.
And
Yeah.
by the way, you're also watching this film with a series of other films that are up
amazing.
for awards.
Oh, amazing.
I remember I told you I had to go back and edit. I wouldn't even leave. I'm texting people saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not leaving yet," because one was just as wonderful as the next.
Yeah, it was.
Your position on Monday night, at least, you were the last film.
Yes.
And I could barely even walk to my car. It was so impactful. It's
Thank
just
you.
incredible.
Thank you.
But it's
Yeah.
a half hour, right? It's
Yeah.
29 minutes to be specific.
Yeah.
Now, when you're part of a film festival, the goal is to get money, in this case, right, to make it into a
Feature film.
Feature film. That's right.
You made this film, which is hard for me to believe, on $38,000?
That's right.
With a budget of 40.
Yep.
I really don't even know how you did that. I mean, what did you stay in tents? I mean,
No, we stayed in hotels. So the entire cast and crew worked on what we call deferment. So everybody, cast, crew members, everybody came in and they donated their time, and so that allowed us to put all the money towards production design, the rental of specific locations, period elements of the project that we needed.
that's hard to get, too.
It's
the car,
really tough.
The police car.
Yeah, we have like 125 people, 20-some people involved in the production of this film. So it was a significant, a very, very significant effort. And, if it wasn't for those filmmakers, I want to shout out to Titan Pictures in Eatonton and all the people in Eatonton, all the volunteers and the community there that came out to support us, especially Sheriff Howard Sills, and also to the cast and the crew members, our editors, Walker Whited and Sean McCain and W Squared. They helped post it. I mean, Jay Dash and Austin, Jay wrote the musical score. Him and Ryan Slate wrote the musical score. And if it wasn't for those guys donating their time and efforts, this story wouldn't have been told.
Yeah, but
literally.
it's also it looks like the budget 5 times that. I mean, or even more.
Yeah.
It's beautifully written, executed.
Thank you.
The cinematography, as I know you're responsible for that, was spot on. It was
Thank you.
the acting. The young man who plays the lead, Dijon.
Yeah.
He's 15.
That's
in
right.
Real
It's
life?
15.
Boy, he just captured the essence of a young man in trouble, but having no idea what happened.
Yeah.
He's a real talented young man.
Yes, he is.
Extremely talented.
What else would we have seen him in? Or does he do local theater where he lives? Or
He's been on a variety of different television shows. He's been on Empire. He's been on a couple of shows on BET. I mean,
he lives right here in Los
lives right
Angeles.
in Los
so
Angeles.
very talented. He's an up and comer.
Yeah.
We're always saying he's always tagging everything. #A storm is coming. So Dijon is a force.
I wish I got to meet him that night.
Yeah.
I was in such a state after seeing the film. I couldn't even speak to anyone.
Yeah.
But what's he like in person, actually?
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun, intelligent, but extremely bright and
Well-spoken.
Yeah, well-spoken.
Takes direction really well.
Yeah, I mean, just for him to tap into this young man who was executed. Let's talk a little about that scene.
Sure.
I'm not giving anything away. No spoiler alert, because we already know, sadly, how this ends.
Yeah. We actually struggled with how to promote the film. Like, do we want to talk about that or not? And I felt like that was really the only way to get people there, is to say, look, this is a historical moment, and you need to see it.
It's historical, and the first thing I thought of when Stacey Blanchett, actually shout out to you, Stacey, introduced us.
Stacey, thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. But wait a minute, this can't be right. A 14-year-old young man who was put to death? I didn't even think that was possible, even back then.
Yeah.
That did get my interest, and I thought, wait, tell me more.
Yeah.
So I think it's a smart, I hate to say this, smart move to get people interested in this story.
Sure. And it's a unique way to sort of bring them, to pique their interest, to get them to talk about history. And
so something as horrendous like this never, ever, ever would happen again. Not that that particular thing would at the age of 14, but there's similar incidents.
You'd be surprised how many people don't really, even in his home state, don't ever have a clue as to whether that this actually happened.
In South Carolina.
In South Carolina. No idea that this actually happened.
Well, it was done and buried in 83 days.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the scene was. And speaking of the execution scene, the scene was really powerful, difficult to shoot. Dijon and I needed to get some. We worked kind of backwards. Usually, you shoot the wides first, and you go in for tights. But I had a timeline for him. You got to get minors out at a certain period of time, and so we shot out all the really tight insert work, and then we pulled back and did the wide stuff, and then we flipped the room and sent him home to shoot all the reverse angles. And so when I was working on those tight inserts with him. I really wanted. I knew that I didn't want to linger too long on him. I really want to show the reaction of the audience, and so I show some tight close-ups of him, and working on those close-ups is just grabbing him and just screaming like and work, and then I go back and I check playback and see if I got it, and that as we were doing those sequences, the realization set into everybody in the room that like this really happened, and like as I'm grabbing him and working with him and I'm doing this, like the intensity in the room just was palatable, so much so that I walked back to the monitor, the script supervisor's like weeping, like it was just powerful. Yeah. And so for me, I had to really kind of remove the emotion, look at the footage, make sure that I'm getting what I need, that I know it's going to translate on screen, and try not to get too into my head about what I'm doing at that time. And that was crazy. It was a really a wild moment. I've never experienced a feeling like that on set ever.
Need I say, you've never really done anything like this either.
Yeah.
You're a background guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A gaffer.
A gaffer, cinematographer. Yeah, that's been my thing for years.
But you're also big social justice, social rights person.
That's right.
Clearly, you read about this story. It meant so much to you, and you flipped and you went on the other side to make it.
Yeah.
And how did you two meet?
So we had this amazing, he's also a producer on 83 Days. His name is Lucius Baston. Shout out, Lou. Hey, man, we love you. Sorry you're not here today. We can't wait to see you tomorrow.
He's coming in.
Yeah, man. And Lou, I presented Lou with a mini-series that my wife and I have been working on called Ink to Ashes. It's about the Tulsa race riots in 1921. Yeah. And the joke that Lou and I always say is, yeah, you sat down and asked me for $25 million, and I got you to pay me 40. So, but he presented this story and said, I need to introduce you to Ray. And so through that relationship, I was able to meet Ray. And
over a
pastrami sandwich.
Yeah.
What did I say before the cameras are rolling? All the good stuff happens over food. Yeah. And then the rest is history. And then how long did it take you to write this piece?
Well, initially it took a year, but I've written various different drafts over the last few years, so and we're still working on it. But
so when I got it, it was 118 pages. Yeah. We took 3 weeks to cut it to 18. My wife came in as a co-writer. She cut it down to 18 pages. I love you, Summer. Miss you, baby.
Miss you, Summer.
And then from there that was in March, so like the third week in March is when we finished the script, the trimming of the script, and then we got into principal photography by June 15th. We shot for 3 days, and post-production was finished by August 1st. So very, very quick timeline. We were very focused. So
it was amazing.
Wow.
It was really amazing because the magnitude of people that came together, that appreciated and understood what we were trying to do. I mean, it was a movement. They came. It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. Very emotional as well. Yeah.
I'm honored to just be a small little part in that to tell your story.
Thank you so much.
Because I'm deeply moved by it.
Thank you.
And again, the goal is to turn it into a major motion, not a major motion, but what do you call it? A major
feature film.
Feature film.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Would you go and see if you could get the backing of a Denzel Washington, a Viola Davis, or is that something like if you did?
Hey, Denzel or Viola, if you're listening, feel free to reach out. Come on.
No, but
we would
you
love
put it in the hands of those folks as well? I mean, it gets into their hands, and the rest is history.
Well,
have you?
I have reached out to Viola, and I have spoken to Viola and her husband, Julius Tennant, on a couple different occasions. I know their schedule has been kind of tight with trying to do Harriet Tubman and some other things, but if the opportunity comes available again, we definitely.
I was just with her 2 weeks ago because a friend of mine wrote the play Paradise.
Okay.
And Viola was executive producer on that. She picked it up and produced it. So
we have an amazing.
I would have told you to come with me.
We have an amazing opportunity because the film starts in the modern day. The feature film starts in the modern day deposition, and so it's a beautiful sort of beginning. And we start with a lead A-list African American lady. So Viola, come on. Hey,
anyway,
we screened this Friday at Toronto Black Film Festival in Toronto, and then we screen at the Houston Black Film Festival in March. So you guys keep an eye out for us if you're in Toronto or if in Canada. If you know somebody who's in Canada, share this post and let them know about it. It'll screen on Sunday this weekend at the Toronto Black Film Festival.
In Crossroads.
And we're in Crossroads in Mississippi. Shout out to Crossroads Film Festival for taking us. I cannot wait to be in Jackson, Mississippi with you guys. Thank you guys for the acceptance.
Look, it's an important story. 83 days. I'm imploring everyone out there, look it up, read about it, about this young man's life. He's one of so many who's been accused and been put to death for things that he never did.
That's
and
right.
we need to tell more of these stories.
Yes.
We really do. I'm deeply moved. Thank you for telling this story, and thank you for making this film.
Thank you.
And any parting words before I let you go?
Yes, please. So if you guys want to follow where we're going to be touring this festival or throughout the country, you can go to 83daysmovie.com as our website, or you can do facebook.com/83days, or Instagram at 83daysmovie, or Twitter at 83daysfilm. So if you're curious about the film and want to know where it's at, we activate with our followers regularly. We post media. We support the other films that are in our blocks. And so it's not just about 83 Days. It's about all sorts of films and where we're at and who we're screening with. So please join us on our social media.
What an honor for Black History Month to have these films.
Yes.
Really. Just some of the best work I've ever seen this year.
Oh, thank you.
Terrific. So thank you
so much.
both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure, and
Thank
I
you
may
for
even go
Stacey
see it again
bringing us
because
out,
I keep
Stacey.
telling my husband he's got to get there. So if we don't watch it at home, because I have a little screener, I may come back out over the weekend and take him. So I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you everybody for being here on Deborah Kobylt Live. You can see us on Facebook and on YouTube, and then you can hear our podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else that you listen to your podcasts. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you next time.